about anything. And when I get on a rant, sometimes like cool things come out.
Yeah,
you
gotta record it, and then you can revisit it.
And a lot of people have so much value in this world, even if they're in sales or they're just getting started. Like there's so much value in people, and that's what I love the most. Is like everybody has some sort of like golden nugget hidden inside them, and as we conversate, we talk. Usually a poke in the direction of where you're most knowledgeable, and all of a sudden, like you can see like this golden nugget of what this person is super excited about or interested about, and you're just like boom, and then we just sit there and you talk about that and how that has changed somebody's life. And I've done probably 20 podcasts now. I've probably posted 15 of them.
Okay,
10,
cool.
10, I think maybe 10. And more and more people are coming back to me like, dude, like, how do I talk with you? I've posted 10, and I've got like 30 of them sitting on my computer that I literally haven't had time to post. Like, I can't post one a day.
Not yet. Maybe you can find someone eventually in the future to help you out with it.
Yeah, I edit it and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, so do I use the resources for my marketing company to edit this stuff and pay them to do it, or do I do it myself? I'm just like, dude, I'm going to do it myself because I can't mix business and my personal like side hustle together. And it's like today or tomorrow, I have a call with a guy who's making $300,000 a year in sales and professional, like in roofing construction. And he's like, boom, and he's making some good money. I mean, I've sat with tables and talked more, but it's like these people just start coming, and that's what I tell everybody is to record, document, and just go. And that's it. But I was going with financial advisors, and where you were going, I'm leery with a lot of that, right? Mm-hmm. So I've gotten so many people, because I use Shaper a lot, right? I'm through there a lot, and I get a lot of people coming to me all the time that are like business advisors, and that makes me so mad. They're like, oh, I'm going to teach you how to run your business, and I ask them what they do. They're like, oh, I'm a Nike manager, and I'm like, I've had 5 of those happen in the last month.
Interesting.
So Nike, Intel, or any of that kind of stuff. And that's like my biggest like pet peeve. I'm like, how can you be a business consultant
if you're answering to a lot of other folks about how one business in one industry works? How can you apply realistically multiple different principles that
like there's the quadrants. If you've read any Robert Kiyosaki books, right? There's the self-employed quadrant, there's the business owner quadrant, there's the investor quadrant, and there's the big business, whatever it is, right? Employee quadrant. The employee quadrant is so much different than the self-employed business owner quadrant. Yes, like I'm not saying that manager at Nike or Intel doesn't have value that they could teach me. Absolutely. They could teach me how to become a better manager. They could teach me how to run people a little bit better. Or maybe they can even teach me how to create little different systems. But the systems that they know how to run are proprietary to Nike or Intel or anything. So I can't really implement that. And they really shouldn't be teaching me those anyway because it's confidential trade secrets.
Exactly.
So I don't want to cross that line with that specific case. And that's where I was going with like financial advisors. Like how I see it. There's a bunch of different financial advisors. There's ones for employees, self-employed people, business owners.
Absolutely.
So it's like whenever I go and talk to people, I like to get to know who they are, what they do, and just find out what their experience is because.
Well, realistically too, when you talk about a different financial advisor, financial planner, financial services, it's a term that gets thrown around so often now. And I mean, realistically, there's so many different types of licenses that you can have and different avenues of how to create or build options for yourself for having financial security in the future.
100%.
And everyone's going to have a different perspective on how to obtain that and how to achieve that.
100%, I agree.
Realistically, personally, I believe in a holistic approach that is not center focused on, stock investing or real estate investing or just one avenue or the other and focusing, because a lot of people that I sit down with, they think that, real estate is and historically has only been the way to create wealth, right? I'm not going to argue that it's a great way to create wealth, but I want to know what else are you working on?
Right. And how are you approaching real estate?
And how are you approaching real estate?
Because this is my firm belief. Any investment can be a good investment, and any investment can be a bad investment. It all depends on the investor and how you approach that investment, and also your end goal. So if you're just buying real estate to buy and hold and take capital gains, I personally don't think that's a good investment. Now, if you're buying investment to get the monthly dividends of somebody paying you rent, that's your monthly payment on that is $600 a month, and your monthly rent income on that
creating
is
yourself a multiple streams of income. That's super key.
So you play for.
And the other idea too
way.
is keeping your liquidity, and that's huge because a lot of people get really tied up in the market, or they get tied up in multiple investments, and like, well, I have all this equity in my house. It's like, okay, well, can you pull that out tomorrow to pay for groceries? Or if the market does tank, are you going to have the liquidity to not sell, but to buy when opportunity strikes?
Yeah.
If you don't have that liquidity, especially looking back at 08,
right.
Dow was floating at around 14,000.
Uh-huh.
March of 2009 drops to 6,500. It's like a 55% drop in less than 2 years, right? And if you missed out on that opportunity, you're also missing the second longest bull run in the United States history, with the Dow floating at about 23,000 now.
Yeah.
And everything, 401ks, IRAs, businesses, real estate, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, it was all affected.
Yep.
The only things that weren't affected was the money you had in the bank or other liquid safe assets below the line, not invested in those avenues. And if you didn't have that liquidity, you're useless at that point, right?
100%.
You can't buy things at a discount, right?
You can't buy. And that's because I hardcore trade Bitcoins, and it's the same thing, right? So if you can't buy on a pullback, well, then what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where were you? Like, I'm for the year, so I've got. At this point, I withdrew, but at one point I had 2.23 Bitcoin. You know what Bitcoin is or no?
I do, but I don't know a lot about it. Actually, I've been looking into gaining a little bit more knowledge about it because I'm hearing it get brought up in conversation more often. If I'm going to stay savvy and stay...
You should do a little research on it. Some of my podcasts are actually on it, so I'll give you a link. So I sat down at that table over there about a week ago with another guy, and he just sat there and drilled me on what is Bitcoin. Because I was selling a computer, he found me. He's like, he stayed up all night and did research on it, and goes, dude, we need a chalk. And I'm like, dude, I have to run a business. Like, okay, fine, I'll give you an hour of my time.
Okay.
So, and him and his girlfriend came down and just drilled me. It has become my most popular podcast. I've gotten 700, 800 views on it in less than a month. Everyone's like, damn, sharing it, talking about it. Like, this guy, like, because everybody right now wants to know what a Bitcoin is. Like, because I took an account from $2,000 in Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. Probably not duplicatable. Probably can't have, not every. I might have been in the right place at the right time. Took an account from $2,000, turned it into $9,000. Took that account from $9,000 and then pulled it off, reinvested it into some other computer's assets to pay me, but it then retook that $9,000 and turned it into 19 one more time. Okay, lost a little bit of it, put it back down, it got to 16, it's almost 17, so I went from 19 to 17. You don't always win, but I'm still up in the long haul. And then I pulled out from $16 or $17, put it down to 14, and right now I'm sitting at 13, so now I'm down another $1,000. Like, damn.
Well, historically, I mean, you're looking at... If you want to outpace, and I mean, I'm assuming inflation, or at least like just market volatility for the Bitcoin is going to level itself out over time. And historically, the longer you're in the market, the more likely you have a chance of winning. Right? Especially if you're watching it and learning. Exactly. That's it, because I don't count those $3,000 that I lost as losses. They were profits anyway, so it's not really a loss. But it's a learn. Like, that's what I talk about in everything. You win some, you learn some. You never lose if you have the right mindset, right? Exactly. I mean, you'll get slapped around, you'll fall on your face, you'll get back up, and you keep going. But as long as you get back up, it's not a loss. Because that'll make you use that shit as a springboard. Yeah. And absolutely. All of a sudden. So the $3,000, like, I'm sitting there watching this. Like, I knew, because I've done this before. Like, I'm usually a guy that does this like 4 times. Yeah. Apparently, I like losing money, but I really like gaining it. But I'm too dumb to like learn from my mistakes the first time. So it usually takes me like 5 times. But like, I'm watching this, I did this, and I'm buying off emotions, I'm going off emotions, and I'm just like, yay! Like, I just made $500 in 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna hold it, it's gonna go up forever. And then 3 minutes later, I'm like, no, I'm down $1,000 bucks. Yeah. Like, so like, as far as investment advice, do I say everyone buy Bitcoin? No. As I said this earlier, any investment's a good investment for the investor. Any investment can be a bad investment depending on the investor. But it's like,
being liquid and being able, see, that's what I talk a lot about in my podcast, being able to understand numbers is I believe the schooling system has failed us hardcore.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
there's an epidemic in our country with just a base understanding of how the dollar works.
Nobody even knows how to make money anymore.
No one knows how to balance a fucking checkbook, let alone make money.
Yeah, that's
or do a budget.
Shit, you're telling me, dude.
It's insane, man. And literally, I mean, I'm probably more informed than 70% of most Americans.
Probably 90, my friend.
Possibly.
Being a financial advisor, you're probably 90%.
Exactly. And that's just it. And realistically, I think that it is an epidemic that is going to create maybe a bubble in 20, 30 years when our generation is looking towards retirement. And they can't because they don't have any money to retire on.
Oh, wait, it's going to happen again, and we're not going to know what to do.
Well, I mean, if you're liquid, you'll know what to do.
I mean, I'm going to know what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've got 16 grand in Bitcoin right now. Like, it's just sitting there. I know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to go again, buy something else. But, like, the thing is like, I talk about this a lot. Nobody knows how to read numbers. That's, like, my biggest pet peeve right now is, like, this generation... A business and entrepreneurship and success in general, financial success, is just a profit-loss statement.
Yeah.
Like, that's as simple as that. It's a profit-loss statement. And you talked about, I want to elaborate on that. No one knows how to balance a checkbook. Well, grandma and grandpa back in the day would always balance their checkbook at the end of the month. I remember my mom sitting down at the end of the month, you know, calculating what she spent and what she didn't, and balance the checkbook. Well, at the end of the month, do you balance your credit card statement? Do you go through and find out how much you've spent on your debit card? No, absolutely not. So like that mindset got me. We're getting in this consumer mindset. Got me massively in debt when I was 18. I would see this credit card says 1% cash back, right? So I kept using this mindset of, oh, I'm just gonna pay off my credit card and swipe my credit card and get 1% cash back. Like, that's cool. And then one day I sat down like, holy shit, I'm spending way more extra in 1%. I mean, not even from the interest, not even counting the interest. It's just me swiping the card because it's like easy, and I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, I got 1% cash back on that, but I spent an additional 60-70% of my money because I didn't understand. Yeah,
you could.
So
yeah.
The second I switched from credit card to cash, I just got rid of my card, stopped swiping. All of a sudden, I went, whoop.
There's a lot to be said about watching that green money actually go out of your hand. Visually.
You're telling me because I can keep it on me now.
Yeah, right?
Beforehand, I would have been buying everything, but when you have a $100 bill and you're like, this $100 bill is going to last me a week, that's it, and then you get down to like Wednesday, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You start thinking like, okay, I've got $15 left to my name. How the hell am I going to splash $15 till next Monday?
Exactly.
And then you start, you know, like, okay, I'll get myself...
You start getting savvy.
you start
learning how to save money.
Real fast.
Yeah,
You'll start picking up like... Yeah. Fast.
It teaches the value of the dollar bill to just see it more often instead of just an online statement.
Exactly.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you.
And when you can learn like that's the big thing. But another thing about this is like nobody understands numbers. Like I mean, we can do math. We can all do basic math. That's cool. The schooling system. I mean, maybe
a formula for compounding interest. Like people understand the concept of interest, but they don't understand
how it
interest
works.
Rates or where they're coming from, what a good interest rate is, what a bad interest rate is. I mean, like, think about it this way. You like putting money in the bank. Of course, everyone likes putting money in the bank, but what do you not like? What do you not like about putting money in the bank?
They don't pay you?
Because of the interest rate. But people don't think about that, right?
No.
What are you earning? 0.03%?
Nothing on
right?
some of them. You're just literally holding them there.
But talking about liquidity, when the market tanked in 2008, what was one of the only safe places you can have your money?
In the bank
account, right? So realistically, finding other avenues to make your dollar work harder for you and essentially argue your own case that, you know what, I don't need a fucking bank. I can put my money in different financial products and services that are just as liquid, that actually grow for me and at least outpace inflation. Because not only is your money not earning anything in the bank, it is literally being outpaced by inflation.
There you go.
And we are in one of the lowest environments we've ever been in, and it's still getting outpaced by inflation.
I'm happy you say that because I've said that on many of my podcasts before, man.
Yeah.
Like, the dollar is losing its value every single year. That's a huge like idea shift towards Bitcoin. Everyone's kind of realizing that, but it's like we've been trained to invest for the long haul, put money in a 401k and IRA, diversify, mutual funds. I mean, I'm not saying any of those are bad, but it's like one of the things, like, it's not...
It just shouldn't be your only avenue.
Yes.
And that's just it. When I talk to folks, you know, I split it up into 6 different areas, right? You've got safe, moderate, and aggressive investments, and you have pre-tax and after-tax investments, right? So a pre-tax investment, can you give me an example?
Depends on who you are as an employee.
It'd be like a 401k or an IRA, pension, profit sharing plan, right? Those are avenues where all the money you earn is saved or invested before it gets taxed, right?
As an employee.
As an employee, you can have a personally owned 401k or a personally owned IRA. That's fine. But the number one rule of accumulating money is taking free money, right? Where can you get free money on the pre-tax?
100% tax. And I want to hit on pre-tax, then you can go to the next one.
And it's the 401k match, right? That's why they've become so popularized, is that employer match. And over time, that's also even declined in how much an employer will actually match their employee. But that's been the mantra for almost 3 decades. And it was just because tax rates were insanely high in the 80s. Like the highest marginal federal tax bracket, 70%. If you were making $100,000 a year, you were being taxed at around 56%, 59%.
Still to this day, man, you, as a standard employee, a normal employee pays about 50% of their income in taxes. Pretty close. I mean, whether it's through property tax or car insurance, like the registration fees, whatever it is, about after-tax money as an employee, you're gone. Like 50% of your money's gone, and that's all the poker chips that you have left to pay.
And then think about this. If I were to ask you what your general thought was on the direction of taxes in the future, we're actually historically in one of the lowest tax times of the United States history. And with a potential plan in the future to bring the number of 7 brackets down to 4 brackets, if you make a pretty high income, you might get...
It's very true.
Right? So, I mean... Do you want to put all of your money in just the pre-tax side to defer those taxes only to pay them possibly in a higher bracket later?
In 10 years when it changes? No. Hell no. And that's why I talk a lot about that. So I'm just now getting investing as an entrepreneur. So you talk about pre-tax money. Being a business owner and entrepreneur, there's so many more avenues for pre-tax money. Yeah. There's so many more avenues. Like, for buying my cell phone and my computer, that's an investment to my company because it makes me money.
Well, you can deduct it.
Right? And that's exactly, it's 100% deductible. So pre-purchase, but from you, like if you're, like you buy as an employee, you're working for somebody, you go buy that, you can't deduct that. So you make $1,000, so this is easy numbers here, you make $2,000, right? Pre-tax money, I get to buy it, so my computer costs $1,000.
Yep.
Right? So then I only get taxed on that $1,000. Left behind, I have $900, right? Flip that around, now I get taxed. I'm an employee now. I get taxed on the $2,000 first. So now I have $1,800 left. Then I buy that computer. Now I have $800 left. So I have a big old profit loss difference because I got so much more money to play with when I own a business. Now, also on top of that, there's so many more avenues that you can invest your money in to protect it and keep it liquid as a business owner. And that's what I'm telling a lot of these people, because jobs are starting to drain up.
They're starting to drain up. Yeah, if you create a business for yourself and you have options like that, deducting the expenses that you need to deduct from your business to basically, in the eyes of the government, you make a lower income, that's a great short-term strategy. It can be a good long-term strategy, but you have to mix it with other things, because we were just talking about how tax rates are at the lowest they've ever been. You might want to utilize after-tax investing, pay for things with money you've already paid taxes on, so that way that growth later on could potentially be tax-free when you pull the money out. And when might that be? 10, 20, 30 years from now when tax rates are higher, right? So it's all about the balance. It's all about
the end goal. It's all about the end goal. Like, what kind of investor are you is the big thing. Is what I say a lot. Like, because I keep saying this, all investments are good investments, all investments can be bad investments. It all depends on your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, who are you as a person? What do you understand, right? So for me, I can get, I don't have enough time to do it anymore, But when I was launching and rebranding my company, when I wasn't working as hard, I could day trade Bitcoins back and forth, the alternate coins, and move, because they moved. And I was making incredible money doing that. But I could not do the same thing on penny stocks.
No.
Right? They move exactly the same. It's the exact same mantra, but I didn't understand this penny stock market like I understood Bitcoins, right? They're exactly the same. They move the exact same patterns. They have exactly the same stuff, the exact same fundamentals, basically, pretty close. They're exactly the same. The only difference is I lost a shit ton of money in penny stocks and I made a shit ton of money in Bitcoins.
Yeah, okay.
Because I get the move. So when investing, my advice to most people is like, figure out who you are.
Yeah, I mean,
and
you have to be aware of that. I mean, typically there's 3 huge factors when it comes to investing: age, risk tolerance, holding period.
Right.
You have to realize how old you are and how much time that you have, and that is also kind of down to the holding period part. And then your risk tolerance. You have to know what your risk tolerance is so you don't end up making emotional decisions. If you know the spread that you want to have between aggressive and safe investments, great, stick to that. And then what you need to do is every year you balance out your portfolio. Let's say you're a 50-year-old investor, right? A safe like Wall Street rule of thumb is that you hold 50% of your assets below the line and 50% above because it's equal to your age. If you're 25, you hold 20% below, 75% above, correct? So if you're a 50 investor and you end up having a really good year in the market in your aggressive investments, now all of a sudden your portfolio is at 60-40, okay? What do you do the following year? Well, you sell off some of your profits and then move it back down to your 50-50 split. Buying high, selling low. Let's say the market has a total shit out, like it did in 08, and all of a sudden you're 70% below and 30% above. Well, what are you going to do? As long as that money below is liquid, you're going to move some of that up into the aggressive area, buying low, and get back to your ideal 50-50 mix. And ultimately, over time, that's going to create the strongest possible financial foundation for you when it comes to investing.
Right.
And you have to be diversified that way. And vertical diversification has been something that's been touted for decades, but no one actually uses it the way they should. They just say, oh, okay, I've got 3 options here with my 401k, safe, moderate, aggressive. I'll just do the aggressive box, or I'll just do the moderate box, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm saving for retirement. That was super easy. Thanks, HR lady.
Yeah.
And they think that they're set, right? But they don't realize that there's a lot of other avenues that you're going to need to look into, especially things that are liquid. A 401k is not liquid. I mean, if you pull it out before 59.5, you get a 10% penalty on top of the tax that you're going to pay for. Right? And people do that all the time. People pull money out of their 401ks to pay for a roof or pay for a new car, not realizing that is like fundamentally screwing them later on in life, because they're going to lose
The compound.
that money could have gotten if they had just let it sit.
Yep. So this is my question, man. Most of the listeners that listen to this podcast are from the age of like 16, 17 to probably 25 to 30. Mm-hmm. Most of them want to be entrepreneurs, learn how to make more money, start their own business naturally.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give to an 18-year-old or a 25-year-old that is looking to go from employee to entrepreneur to start saving their money to set themselves up in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years to be able to do that process?
Okay, so I started a business at 19 here in Portland, actually. I was going to college, I was working. I say the number one thing that I have for anyone thinking about starting a business is being okay with a 70 to 80 hour work week. That's the first thing.
No shit.
Second thing?
No, amen to that.
Yeah. Second thing, just go start something. It's literally so easy. Like, it's the first step. File for an LLC with a Secretary of State. Get it established. Boom. It's like $100, I think. It's made.
If you
now
go,
you are a business owner.
Yeah.
It might not generate any income, but you can officially say you're a business owner.
Yep.
Right?
And if you go through LegalZoom or one of those companies that do it all for you,
it might even be cheaper.
Nah, it's more expensive.
Oh, it's more expensive.
You just
but
fill
it's
out
easier. I remember it was a bit of a headache.
Yeah.
But realistically, just go do it. Just go start something and be okay with literally working your ass off for however many years, and be okay with it not being successful right off the bat.
With
My business
losing
didn't
money.
end up being successful, and actually I ended up turning it into a dormant business that's now just a consulting business, because I was making outdoor equipment for people, hiking, climbing, cycling gear, and I got really good at it. I made pretty awesome outdoor gear. But it got to the point where the balance of work and how much time I wanted to put into this business and school just got to be too much.
Right.
I was working 80, 90 hours a week, and I never saw my family, and I had a death in the family. And then that totally reallocated my priorities. But that learning curve and that process I went through over that 3 or 4 years of just starting something and working as possibly hard as I could on it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And it brought my foot in the door, and is the only reason that I walked into a Fortune 100 company, got an interview, because I had an experience starting a business. I don't have a college degree. I dropped out eventually to continue doing this business. But when I walked in to number 65 on the Fortune 100 list to ask for a job, they gave it to me because I knew what the fuck I was talking about when it came to operating a small business and financing it.
Right.
To a certain extent. So I would say the number one thing is be okay with a 60 to 80 hour work week. The 40-hour work week, that's not a thing anymore. And if you work less than that and you say you work your full time, I'm going to laugh at you. Second, just go start it. It's literally as simple as getting it filed with the Secretary of State, get your LLC started or whatever it is that you want to do. Create a business plan, or at least have a vision of where it's going. If it's on paper, it's even better. And then give it a run for 3-4 years and just see where it goes.
Just start.
Just start. It's literally that easy. Just start and
Just
see where it takes you.
Just do something.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I say the same shit over and over and over. Just do shit.
Yeah.
Just do shit. It doesn't matter if it sucks. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You know, at least you'll start thinking differently. At least you'll start acting differently.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. If you start acting differently, then people will start to gravitate towards you. Me starting my own business, dude, I started when I was 18 and I didn't make shit. I was completely, I'll say unsuccessful, but I don't see it as unsuccessful. But I was unsuccessful in terms of entrepreneurship because there's the only way, you know, the judge of success and non-success in entrepreneurship is making money. I wasn't making any money, so in ties of entrepreneurship, I was unsuccessful. But personally, that was the most success that I've ever had in my life. Education process, the learning curve. When you start like solving problems and start like connecting dots and start getting your head to click, like you start thinking differently, and then you'll start, opportunities will fall in your lap, like your job.
Absolutely.
When you're just doing shit, your life will, you'll get to this like point where it'll be like, oh shit, like I have an option to take, like this way or that way. Where before,
It's just linear.
it's living your life on the offense versus living your life out of reflex, reaction, and doing shit is offensive.
Yeah.
Letting
absolutely.
shit happen is defensive, and you'll never get anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I made my first like really exciting business connection when I was running this outdoor equipment company, and it was just so invigorating because I was so excited. I didn't care that I had only gotten like 4 hours of sleep, and I met for coffee with this individual who ran one of the local retail stores I was looking to vend some of my products out of, and he loved them. And we decided to do business together. And at that point, I ended up in 3 locations in Portland, and I was excited. I was 19, and I had a tangible, branded product in professional retail environments. That's a huge milestone. Even if I'm not making any money.
How many people can say that?
Not very many people can say
Because
that.
even if that retail store is taking all the profits,
Or
right?
a good majority,
or
about
a good
40 or 50%.
Right,
Yeah.
they're taking a lot of the profits, right?
Yeah.
Your name is getting out there.
Exactly.
So that's what I talk a lot about on my podcast a lot, is personal branding and creating a brand. So you start creating this aura, so now all of a sudden people are seeing your logo and your name, and what you can do is you can start target those people who shop at that store, and you can start building because they've seen your brand. They see you as an expert in that field because you're in that store. So you start running paid advertisements, or you start targeting those people on Instagram and things of that sort. And all of a sudden you start becoming and building your own brand, and you put up your own online store at that point where you're making 100% of the profits. But since you got into that retail store, you gave away everything. Think of that as marketing. It's free marketing, free publicity, free branding with your website directly on the back. As long as you're not getting too much headaches, too many returns, and too much losses from that store, and do it.
You can do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, because you have to balance time and energy and profit. What is it worth it? But it's a good opportunity for you. I mean, you could always pull out later on, but it's a good opportunity for you to, get your name out there.
Yeah,
become publicized, kind of like writing a book. But
I mean, that's the heart of the double hustle too. I mean, figure out what you're good at, and hopefully you're working in a field that you're good at. And if you are, figure out a way to create a second stream of income. I mean, this is one of Cardone's big things too, is utilize the business you're already in, and even if you're an employee, quotation marks, you're still a business. You are. If you think about it, your skills and your knowledge, you can be a business with that skill set and that knowledge. You just have to figure out a way to monetize it outside of your current environment and just start a double hustle.
In a way that is non-competing to the business so you don't get fired.
Exactly. Yeah, I do agree with that. But I mean, like, utilize maybe the skills and the connections that you've made through that business to market what you're doing now as well on the side.
See, that's another thing I talk a lot about is marketing. Nobody understands that. Like, people don't understand sales. People don't understand marketing. And the two differences: marketing is not sales.
Nope.
Sales is not marketing. Marketing is the opportunity to get a presentation and try to sell somebody something.
Exactly.
Where sales is actually selling something, right? So marketing is like, I'm making a friend. I'm creating an atmosphere. I'm creating followers. I'm creating connections. I'm getting my name out there. Where a lot of people will say they're marketers and all they're doing is posting sales ads on Instagram or Facebook. And the problem about all of that stuff is you need to brand yourself as giving value, not trying to take value.
Absolutely.
And so that's a trick. Is like, you're not all sales, because I mean, how many of us follow Instagram accounts that are just saying, oh, I got a 20% off sale here, I got a 20%, even Forever 21 or the big retail stores, they'll sit there and they'll post attractive girls and the clothing and stuff, but it's not always a sales pitch.
Yep, exactly.
It's usually cool stuff and creative things that people want, and then every now and then they'll say, all right, come into our store and buy this.
Exactly.
Or like Coca-Cola, how often, to name a time that you saw in a Coca-Cola commercial where they told you to go buy a Coca-Cola.
Never.
They never ask you to go down to your local Walmart and buy a Coca-Cola.
No.
Ever.
No, you just do.
You see their name, you see their branding, you see how happy somebody is, and you're like, shit, I want to be like that guy and enjoying that happiness. I want a Coke.
And it might not necessarily be quite as like literal of an interpretation as that, but there are reasons why on a hot ass day and all of a sudden the opportunity presents itself for you to buy a Coca-Cola from the food cart you're eating at or the store that you're buying the food at. If you see that label, you're like, wow, a Coke does sound pretty good right now.
It's an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
They're selling on emotions, they're not selling on sales. So what they're doing is they're implementing this emotional connection with you. Like, perfect example, like, if I told you, think back to your grandma's blueberry pie or something that your grandma used to cook, you could instantly remember the smell of that in the house. Mm-hmm. Or you'll be walking through like a grocery store and all of a sudden there's like a Febreze or an air conditioner or something that smells just like the one that your mom used, and all of a sudden you're 7 years old in your mom's house and you can remember that day perfectly. Mm-hmm. That emotion of smell will bring that back, that tie, that like physical mental anchor in your head of like, holy shit. So when you're in that position where you're on the beach throwing a football around with some girls around you having fun for a picnic, all of a sudden you see the big old buff dude throwing the football, tripping over the girls, and then landing in the girl's lap because she's got a bunch of Coca-Cola. You're like, oh shit, like I want that to happen right now.
Yeah, right?
Like you'll see what's there. So the marketing versus sales.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff.
So how can I help you, man?
Good question. I mean, realistically, what I do is before anyone can really understand how they can help me, I have to take them through my process, show them how I help clients.
Right.
And if it's applicable to them, great. If it's not, that's fine. But if they find someone or they run into someone that they think would find value in what it is I do,
right,
then yeah, that's just it. And vice versa too. I wouldn't send someone your way until I knew a little bit more about your business model and what it is, the actual services that you provide,
right,
the actual products that you may or may not offer.
Makes
things
sense.
like that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did a little reading online, looked at your website, and yeah, it seems like there's a lot of different things that you can help folks with, whether it's creating a brand, marketing that brand, even like some of the digital and like photo editing services that you would find through like Photoshop or whatever. The Bitcoin thing, I don't know much about that, but it looks like you've offered up some sort of like educational tracks for folks to learn about that. It's realistically just like the entrepreneurial tool set. It's kind of what you're trying to help people out with, right?
I want to, and really what I want to help with is I want people to have more success in life, because there's no more satisfaction to me than having somebody like come to me and say, Jeff, dude, like I did what you told me to do, and holy shit, like thank you.
Yeah.
Like then they'll start telling you this whole story, and I mean that's the coolest thing in the world to me. Like I remember like when I was working my sales job, and I went up to this guy, and he's having a hard time over the phone call, and it's a routine call that happens all the time, and I'll get it all the time. And he was giving up. He had no idea. I told him to put the person on hold. I said, put him on hold, and I wrote down a script, literally word for word, wrote down a script, and I said, say this, and I went in parentheses, pause right here. They'll give one of these two answers. They say this, you say this. If you say this, you say this. And I gave down this like 7-sentence script, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? And he handed it, read it, perfectly pronounced it. We practiced it for about 5 minutes before he got back on the phone. Went and did it, comes back to me 10 minutes later and goes, holy shit. He's like, anything you ever say ever again, he's like, I'm following what you tell me to do.
Okay. Nice.
And I sat back and I'm like,
yeah,
I just made that guy $75.
All right.
And so like that's what I love to do. So anytime somebody needs help with something, like I love that. Like I'll teach you how to do marketing for free. I'll teach you how to do it for no money. Like I mean, a lot of times I'm just giving away all this stuff. Like that's who I am. I teach Bitcoins for free. I don't even sell courses on this stuff yet. Like come by, like nothing. Like legitimately, my personal brand is just value driven. Like here you go. Good luck. Take it how you want it. If you have any questions, like here's my email. That's what I do. And so like my dad's starting an insurance business, and so he's selling insurance, very similar in niche to like what you do. And
well, I mean, a good majority of what I do with folks is insurance as well, because you can't invest safely without being properly covered either.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's a big part of it.
And so like he's like, it's all like lead gen, right? And so the process that I'm taking him through is I'm making him, create a personal brand. And I think that's a big thing that almost every entrepreneur needs, depending on the situation, but almost everybody needs a personal brand. You need to set yourself apart, because in this mass crowd, there's a million insurance agents, there's a million real estate agents, there's a million financial advisors, we already talked about business advisors, there's a million entrepreneurs, there's a million of everybody out here anymore. Population on this planet is like what, 70 billion or whatever the number?
7 billion, yeah. I think it's something like that.
Something ridiculous. Like that's cool. Like you're unique in your own way, but also you're not the only person doing it.
Yeah.
So how do you highlight your uniqueness? So what we're doing for my dad is we're creating this online presence of a website through his personal brand, firstandlastname.com, and he's an insurance guy. Took off all the branding of his company he's selling insurance with, and all he's doing is giving to the world. What we're going to do is we're going to create him an email list teaching insurance, just value-driven stuff. We're going to create him videos and courses and things value-driven, free of how to audit your insurance, because that's a lot of things that people don't understand. Like there's a drop in this world of people are going on to geico.com or 1-800-insurance.com and just taking the lowest bid. Same thing with like their financial advice.
They have no idea what their contract looks like.
Yeah, and I did that with my car insurance, and I handed it to my dad, and he goes, holy shit, dude, it says you have full coverage, but he's like, do you really understand what you have here? I'm like, nah, it was cheap. Like, but cheap and quality never mix. I mean, very few and far between, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, so we're teaching that, like, cost versus value and all that stuff, and he's creating this aura of Tim Trimble, the insurance guy, of like, dude, I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself, and if you want to go insurance with me, great. Like, if you don't, that's cool too. And it's like and it's a law of sowing, reaping what you sow, or sowing what you reap, whatever it is, right? The more seeds, the more seeds you plant, the more things will grow. The 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your profits come from 20% of your efforts. Like, you're gonna waste 80% of your damn efforts, but those 80% of your efforts that you did led you to the 20% that made you all that money.
Yep.
So like that's one of the ways, like I help a lot of people is create personal branding. That's what I do for myself. That's part of the reason I do what I do on Jeff Trimble, because I'm following the same aspects. Like, I'm giving it away for free. I'm helping people for free. And if somebody needs a website or somebody needs marketing services, they know where to find me.
Fair enough.
That's what I recommend for everybody. And it's cheap to get started. It's like not very hard at all. You know,
To start a business or to start changing yourself in an
Both.
entrepreneur. Oh yeah, it's not really that difficult monetarily to start something. I mean, especially if you do it the right way. I mean, you can even do it without loaning money or getting a loan. You
shit,
know?
half the time you can do it for free.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as good. I mean, but starting out, you can start creating a brand through Instagram, Etsy, Facebook, Medium. Any of these social sites are your own personal website anyway.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, a Facebook page, like,
Yep.
it's not as quality. You can still drive traffic, but they all have algorithms, so it's less likely that people will see it over
Yep.
time, and they can shut you down at any point. But it's okay to get started there.
Yep.
That's how I got my start. I mean, I went to 60,000 followers on Instagram, so now I drive hella traffic to whatever I choose to do so.
Yep. Which is great. Yeah, it's a huge resource, especially if you like someone's company or their brand. 60,000, well, this would be 180,000 eyes or 120,000 eyes,
Right?
you know, looking at it, right? So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, even if they have one eyeball on it,
Yeah,
still
right.
got 60,000 out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
to half an eye every now and then. But that's it. Like, it's just start personal branding. So I think that's kind of it. Do you have any questions for me? I mean,
No questions, really.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop this.
No worries.
And thank you guys for your time.